You think the internal farming, because I know one of the arguments for that is that you have large sort of warehouses where you have stacks and stacks of layers, where you have LED lights growing these things in layers and layers. Do you think that's viable, considering that it's obviously been done for a long time in the fields, but we've not been, the UK that is, have not been self-sufficient in food for some time now, have they?
No, you're referring to what we call vertical farming.
Yeah.
Where they have great big warehouses, and they have the lights, and you see people going around. I mean, basically the crops are grown in water with chemicals in it, and the people are going around with gloves on and masks on and jumpsuits and everything else, and to make it so sterile. And the idea, the people who promote it, is that you grow the food where the people are, so you cut down on food miles. But the poor little plants never see daylight. It's all on this ultraviolet light. I mean, I've looked in. I've seen what it is. I heard about it and I looked it up to see what they were going on. And you see these massive, great buildings go up in forklifts to get up to reach some of them, and they're all growing in troughs with liquid in. It's so sterile. I don't know.
Well, I think another benefit of that, though, is you can get a constant supply of fresh produce, can't you? Because obviously when you control the environment, you can control the temperatures, you control everything, to the point where instead of traditional agriculture where you're reliant on seasons and having good weather, pests coming in, everything else, you've got a lot more efficient rollout, produce coming through all the time. You just don't have as many problems as you do in traditional agriculture. I mean, I don't know enough about it to be able to comment, but you don't think, other than that it's still in its infancy, do you think that could actually become a major source of calories for the population here? I don't think for a long time we'll still be self-sufficient, but it could actually go some ways to freeing up that land.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm a keen gardener as well as a grower, although I'm semi-retired now. But I mean, when I go to my greenhouse and pick my tomatoes, they're not the same if you bought them in the shop, because they're on different conditions. Mine have a bit of muck on them and all the rest of it, and they have plenty of daylight and sun, everything else. And I think you'll find when you get food from these vertical farming places, you probably find you haven't got the taste that we're used to. It may be you've got to acclimatise to a different taste, and certainly it will be a more even crop. I mean, they'd be able to put their computer on and say, oh yes, that tomato will be ready on such and such a date, because everything is so even, whereas we have the elements. We have the seasons, the elements, the pigeons, the deer, the rabbits, the slugs, the squirrels, you name it. Something will come along and upset your plan. And, it's whereas everything's controlled, it will be, well, it's robotic farming, isn't it? I don't know. But I mean, it's in its infancy. I mean, I've seen pictures of these massive buildings in different places. And one of the big arguments is constant supply, and also, of course, no food miles, basically, because you want to feed London, you grow it in London, whereas you couldn't do that with wheat. What you're going to do for things like wheat is another matter, because you're not going to make bread out of lettuces.
They might find a way. You never know these days. The amount of processed stuff coming out. I know they make crisps out of peas now. I mean, obviously that's a slightly bit different, but you could start making random stuff, random food.